Hi, my name is Janae, and for the Module 7 research project, I chose Micah. And the reason I chose Micah is because he is one of the prophets that I know the least about and whose book I've hardly ever read. And the first verse that mentions Micah is in Micah 1:1, where we are told that the word of the Lord came to Micah. I chose to do my research project on Micah, who was the prophet during the rule of King Hezekiah. Micah 1:1 says, "The word of the Lord that came to Micah of Moresheth in the days of Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, which he saw through divine revelation concerning Samaria and Jerusalem." The book of Micah is the first of the 12 books to turn the spotlight of prophetic criticism directly on Judah and Jerusalem. Micah was a native of Moresheth, who ministered to both the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. Micah lived in a time where the wealthy were given privileges that the poor were denied. In this time, the greater the wealth, the more distance between them and God. Lastly, Micah shows that God is not happy with social injustice, decline in morality, and his people living life without a view of the Messiah's reign. The most important theological affirmation of the book of Micah is that he realizes that the Jerusalem temple was not immune to divine punishment. The entire first chapter of Micah lays out a clear depiction on what God is planning to do to the two kingdoms. But for the sake of time, I'm going to read to you and focus on verses 3 through 6, which says, "For behold, the Lord is coming down from his place. He shall come down and tread in judgment on the high places of the earth. The mountains shall melt under him, and the valley shall be split like wax before the fire, like waters poured down a steep place. All this is because of the rebellion and apostasy of Jacob, and the sins of the house of Israel, the northern kingdom." What is the rebellion and apostasy of Jacob? Is it not the abandonment of God in order to worship the idols of Samaria? What are the high places of idolatry in Judah, the southern kingdom? Are they not Jerusalem, the capital and center of corruption? Therefore I, the Lord, shall make Samaria a heap of ruins, and of stones an arable land in the open country, a place for planting vineyards, and I will pour her stones down into the ravine and lay bare her foundation. Micah is sent to warn the people of God's coming judgment, but because they are so far away from him, they cannot understand the warning that Micah is trying to give. Micah takes further the reason for God's judgment, mainly the oppression of the poor. In Micah 2, verses 1 through 2, it reads, "Woe, judgment is coming to those who devise wickedness and plot evil on their beds. When morning comes, they practice evil, because it is in the power of their hands. They covet fields and seize them, and houses and take them away. They oppress and rob a man of his house, a man of his inheritance." These verses tell the reader why God is bringing judgment. The powerful are accused of greed and pride, according to verse 11. They oppose the most vulnerable, women and children, and God has simply had enough. In the end, all is restored. Jerusalem confesses its sin and takes full responsibility for God's rage. And in the end, Zion is reestablished and will see his salvation.